Eagle 95.1, WUPN, Paradise, Sault Ste. Marie.
It's time for The Game. Eagle 95.1 proudly brings you The Game, the Twin Sault's only regional and national sports show. For the next hour, we'll get an in-depth look at sports in the Eastern Upper Peninsula and Algoma region and hear from coaches and players involved in The Game. Now, let's join Scott Nason at the Wicked Sister on Ashman Street in downtown Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, for tonight's broadcast of The Game on Eagle 95.1.
Time to play the game. Time to play the game. It's all about the game and how you play it. All about control, and if you can take it, all about your debt. And if you can pay it, it's all about pay. And who's gonna make it?
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to The Game on Eagle 95.1, online at EagleRadio951.com, and podcasted at thegamesportshow.com or thegamesportshow.podbean.com. Here on this Thursday night, January 17th, 2019, broadcasting from the studios of Eagle 95.1 on Ashman Street on a pretty pleasant day here in the Twin Saults, although the weather is going to get a lot colder over the next few days. So if you're outside, make sure you're bundled up, bring the pets in, and prepare for the first real Arctic blast of the season. We'll be joined later on by Butch Davis from Butch on Sports, who has not been on the show for a while, so very excited to talk to Butch about what's going on in the Metro Detroit sports world, and we'll be back at our regular location, the Wicked Sister on Ashman Street, next Monday night, January 21st. We should have our full crew assembled, myself, Butch, Dave McKegg, Katie Woolen, and EJ Russell. But we've been off for a while since last Monday night, so we're going to get listeners caught up on the world of local sports. We're going to go day by day, not sports by sport, or sport by sport, easy for me to say. We're going to look at the week that was, or about the week and a half that was, starting last Tuesday in boys basketball. Brimley was at Detour, a snowy Tuesday, but a couple games got in last Tuesday. Brimley over Detour in boys basketball by the score of 88-50. Sheboygan over Newberry last Tuesday, also in boys basketball, 67-61. Last Wednesday night, a couple girls games in the area. St. Ignace remains undefeated as they knock off Rudyard by the score of 76-18 in Newberry. Girls got a win at Sheboygan by the score of 56-47. Wednesday night at the Memorial Gardens in Sioux, Ontario, well, the Hounds, we found out, were not buyers in the OHL trade deadline. They were not sellers. They stood pat. And some people question that, looking at this year, is this year's squad good enough to make that run? Did the Hounds need to sell and get some draft picks over the next few years, because the cupboard is pretty bare as far as draft picks? I was more of the second category. I really thought that the Hounds should maybe sell and look at the future, but I'm not an expert. I'm not around the team. The GM is, and he decided this team is good enough for a run this year. Well, last week, maybe they showed they're good enough as they defeated Sarnia on Wednesday night by the score of 4-2. Ryan Roth had a pair of goals for the Hounds, while Morgan Frost and Cole McKay had the other goals. Matthew Villalta made 29 saves in net for the victory for the Sioux Greyhounds. In a game you heard on Eagle 95.1 and online at EagleRadio951.com last Thursday, a week ago, at the Purple Palace in Pickford, Brimley kept their undefeated streak intact in boys basketball as they defeated Pickford by the score of 71-52. Brimley improved to 11-0 on the season. Zach Gross led another balanced scoring attack. Love his game. 22 points on the night. Dylan Carrick and Tristan Lyons had 11, while Hunter Lippanen and Marcus Harris had 9 points apiece for Brimley. Nick Eddington, he scored 20 points for the Panthers, who fell to 3-4 after that loss. Sault Ste. Marie over Newberry last Thursday in boys basketball by the score of 66-36. Rowan Warren, he had 15 points for the Blue Devils, while Caleb Ranta had 14. Stephen Cohee and Michael Goldenbogen added 9 points each for Newberry. Last Thursday in boys basketball was Engadine over Rudyard by the score of 77-72. Andrew Blanchard had 27 points for the Eagles, while Drake DeWeiss had 18, Ian MacArthur 10. Paul Staker, he had 23 points for Rudyard in their loss. Cedarville over Detour last Thursday night in boys basketball by the score of 63-46. Sean Bale, Tristan Masuga each had 11 for the Trojans. Trey Pocan added 9, while Alex Richwine and Jakin Wilkie had 17 and 12 for Detour. Men's college basketball on Thursday, both the Laker men and women made their UP trek, starting off in Marquette at the Barrie Event Center against the Northern Michigan Wildcats, and it was a good night for the men, as Malik Adams led all scorers with 26 points as the Lakers defeated Northern Michigan by the score of 86-66. 3 other Lakers scored in double figures for the men, including Rog Stein. He tallied a double-double with 11 points on the night, or I should say 17 points on the night, while redshirt sophomore Jackson Schreimaker and junior forward Kemontres Collins added 11 each for the men. Women, they've had a tough night on Thursday as they fell to Northern Michigan by the score of 93-36. C.D. DeWilt led the Lakers in scoring with 9. Boys basketball on Friday night. St. Ignace continues to struggle. No, they don't continue to struggle in girls basketball. I was thinking of the boys. The girls, they're rolling at 9-0 as they defeated Rogers City on the road by the score of 63-18. Pickford and Brimley, big matchup in Brimley, and it was the Pickford Panthers edging out the Brimley Bays by the score of 55-53. Kennedy Guild, she had 22 points for Pickford, while Tamissa Archambault had 22 points for Brimley. Sioux High over Newberry in girls basketball on Friday by the score of 60-34. Kayla Wilhelms had 15 for the Blue Devils, while Lily Alaspa had 13, along with 8 rebounds, 6 assists, and 4 steals. That's a good night for Miss Alaspa. Girls basketball on Friday night, Rudyard all over Engadine. Engadine struggling this year. The Bulldogs over the Eagles by the score of 67-14. Sierra Molina, she had 19 points for Rudyard, while Brooklyn Besteman added 13 for the Bulldogs. And Cedarville over Detour on Friday night in girls basketball by the score of 48-31. Friday night hockey, lots of games, including involving local teams, starting off the Sioux High Blue Devils, as the Blue Devils dropped their 5th straight game at the Big Bear Arena, falling to the DeWitt Capital City Capitals by the score of 4-1. Sioux Greyhounds at the Memorial Gardens win again, and they defeat Windsor by the score of 4-3. Morgan Frost had a pair of goals for the Hounds, including the game winner. Keegan Howdeshell and Barrett Hayton also had goals, and Matthew Villalta, he made 21 saves in net for the win. Game I had a chance to broadcast at Puller Stadium on Friday night, the surging Sioux Eagles broke open a 1-goal game with a 4-tally outburst in the 8-minute span in the third period, as they thumped the Blind River Beavers by the score of 7-1. The Eagles had 6 different goal scorers, including Mikey Butcher, Hayden Clark, Charlie Hannawall, George Orfanos, Jake Lamberti, and Kyle Quinn. Joe Benedetto made 33 saves in net for the win. Now, if you want to hear the podcast of the audio broadcast on Hockey TV, you can do so by going to thegamesportshow.com. Yours truly and Larry Pozzebon. We put the podcast of all the home games there, so if maybe you're at the game or want to relive some of the memories, check out thegamesportshow.com. Sioux Thunderbirds, they were on a 3-game road trip up north and started off on a losing note, losing to Kirkland Lake by the score of 4-1, and Noah Bowman with the only goal for the T-Birds. The 18th-ranked Lake Superior State University Lakers at home this weekend, taking on Alabama Huntsville. Well, they got off to a good start on Friday night as they defeated the Chargers by the score of 7-2. Max Hummets had a pair of goals for the Lakers, while Diego Cuglietta, Gage Terrell, Melvin Carlson, Jacob Nordquist, and Steven Regario all had goals, and Nick Kossoff only had to make 16 saves. He gets the win. He's now 11-2-1. So a pretty good night of hockey for most of the local teams on Friday night. We'll get to more of the hockey on Saturday night after we get to college basketball. The men for the Lakers won at Michigan Tech on Saturday afternoon by the score of 75-67. Malik Adams, big weekend for him. He had 25 points to give the Lakers their 9th win on the season. Lakers now 9-5 on the season, 5-3 in GLIAC play. They're the 3rd-ranked seed as far as where they are in the standings, but there's a lot of teams that are right around them, and they are in action a little bit later. I'm actually going to be heading up to the Bud Cooper Gymnasium to see Lake Superior State take on Wisconsin Parkside. That game at 7:30 tonight. Laker women continue to struggle. They lose to Michigan Tech on Saturday by the score of 67-40. Lexi Cohn led the Lakers with 17 points, and the Laker women will be in action. Actually, they're in action right now. As we record this broadcast, they are taking on Wisconsin Parkside. Saturday night hockey, Sioux High continues to struggle. They lose to DeWitt by the score of 4-0. So the Blue Devils 5-11-1 on the season. They're hoping to right the ship as they travel to Alpena on Saturday to take on the Alpena Wildcats. Tim Ellis will have called that one on your home for the Hockey Blue Devils, Eagle 95.1. Sioux Greyhounds win again. They defeat Mississauga on Saturday night by the score of 6-4. So the Sioux Greyhounds right now, the 9th-ranked team in the latest CHL rankings. They have a record of 27-10-4, along with one shootout loss. And they're doing well, and they'll be on the road this week. Looking at the Sioux Greyhound schedule, they're actually at North Bay tonight at 7 o'clock, and will continue their road trip on Saturday as the Sioux Greyhounds, who have been home a lot, they were home all week last week, they'll be at Barrie on Saturday, and the Hounds will be at Sudbury on Sunday afternoon. So a 3-game road trip for the Sioux Greyhounds. Sioux Eagles win again on Saturday in a shootout by the score of 3-2. As it was Caleb Wood and Dominic Scarella scoring the goals for the Eagles. Riley Jensen and Scarella scored the goals in the shootout. So the Eagles finally get back to 500. It took them a while to get there. They're 19-1-1, 4th place in the West Division. And they'll be at Elliott Lake on Friday and host Powassan on Saturday. Speaking of Powassan, they hosted the Sioux Thunderbirds Saturday night, and the T-Birds would win by the score of 6-4 as Nick Smith had a goal and 3 assists for the T-Birds. Sioux Indians were at the Sioux Thunderbirds on Saturday night, and they defeated the Thunderbirds by the score of 7-1 in midget AAA action. Now the Sioux Indians, they're going to be in action after the game on Saturday featuring the Sioux Eagles and Powassan Voodoos. It's a doubleheader, and the Indians will have a chance to play at the Puller, which normally they don't. They play at the Taffy Able Arena, and they will take on the A21 Academy from Windsor. Laker hockey on Saturday, well, was a different story. The Lakers and the Alabama Huntsville Chargers tie at 1. So the Lakers still have an unbeaten streak. That one continues, still ranked number 18 in the latest rankings. They are 14-6-2. And will travel to Mankato to take on number 1 in the WCHA, Minnesota State. Sioux Thunderbirds on Sunday afternoon, they defeated French River by the score of 4-2. So the T-Birds still first place in all the NLJHL and in the West. They host Espanola tonight, and they'll be and host Powassan on Friday. Both of those games at the Memorial Gardens. We're going to take our first break here on the game. I got to get a drink of water. Stuttering a little bit in that first segment. It's been a while. Been a tough day here as well. We come back, we're going to recap this week so far, mostly high school basketball. We've had some good matchups and some good results involving local teams. That's coming up next on The Game here on Eagle 95.1.
Get Wicked Catering from the crew at The Wicked Sister.
We like to think of ourselves as foodies. While our favorite foods are paired with a beer tasting at The Wicked Sister, you can now have the same creative menu for your next catered business luncheon, family get-together, wedding, or holiday party. Our white truffle risotto appeals to your gluten-free and vegetarian guests. Add sautéed shrimp or freshly grilled chicken for a pop of protein. Or let us build you a custom menu to suit your needs. From plated events of 15 to buffets for 200, The Wicked Sister will cater your event with tapas, snacks, cravables, or a full sit-down dinner.
The Wicked Sister, where you'll be treated like family, whether you like it or not.
The Game Sports Show would like to thank an additional sponsor and additional home to the Game Sports Show, Sports Center Bar and Grill. Sports Center Bar and Grill, located on 624 Wellington Street West, Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Sports Center rated top sports bar for the second year in a row. At Sports Center, enjoy their famous 75-cent wing night along with delicious Molson products on tap, along with a great atmosphere and other great food options available as well. Sports Center Bar and Grill, the Sioux's best sports bar.
The Game Sports Show would like to thank an additional sponsor and special edition home to the game, Silver Creek Golf Course, located on 104 Bellow Lake Road, Garden River, Ontario. And also shout out thank you to Silver Creek GM Jamie Henderson. Silver Creek Golf Course has many specials to offer for 18 holes, 9 holes, and even Twilight Deal specials. It does not matter what your level of golf game is, it is a must to enjoy the scenic course, memorable experiences that Silver Golf Course offers. Silver Creek also offers a Thursday wing night for you to enjoy food after a stellar time on the course. You can book your tee time by phone or online at golfsilvercreek.com. Silver Creek Golf Course, where all are welcome to play.
The Game Sports Show is pleased to shout out a partner, additional home, and sponsor to Northern Superior Brewing Company, located on 50 Pym Street in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Northern Superior Brewing Company having a strong presence locally with many beers to offer. With much involvement in the community of Sault Ste. Marie, Northern has a sport and friendly-like atmosphere within its tap room, and during the summer months, it is a must to visit Pier 55 to enjoy some delicious food, amazing view of the water, and view of the Bush Play Museum right on the cusp of the Hub Trail, and of course all of that down with a delicious brew from Northern Superior. Northern Superior Brewing Company, it's a northern thing.
Welcome back to the game on Eagle 95.1, online at eagleradio951.com and podcast at thegamesportshow.com or thegamesportshow.podbean.com. We'll be joined in our next segment by Butch Davis from Butch on Sports, who has a lot to say about what's going on in the world of sports. We'll talk about the Metro Detroit sports world, a little brighter this week, because overall it's a down sports scene in Detroit. We'll talk about that with Butch, along with some of the other national sports. Of course, the NFL playoffs, the conference championships about to happen this weekend. We'll also talk about some of the other, maybe even wrestling. We always talk about wrestling. Got to talk about wrestling with Butch. We have other sports shows from Sioux, Ontario, involving Dave McKeag and his merry band of gentlemen, including the Game Sports Show from Sports Center Bar and Grill, the Game Sports Show from Northern Superior Brewery, and just yesterday, the Game Sports Show from Icebreakers Bar inside the John Rhodes Community Center. And you can find all those along with podcasts of Brimley Bay's basketball, Sioux Eagles hockey, home games on Hockey TV, along with my segments with Paul Van Wagner on the Drive, and Butch's show, Butch on Sports, all in 2 places, actually 3. You can go to YouTube and look up the Scott Nason channel. You can also go to thegamesportshow.com or thegamesportshow.podbean.com. Let's continue our recap of local sports since our last show. Let's start with this week, Monday night in girls basketball. In a game you heard on Eagle 95.1 with our good friend Todd Olmstead, the Brimley Bays girls team improves to 7-2 with a 41-9 win at home over Harbor Light Christian. Newberry in girls basketball improves to 5-4 as they defeated the Engadine Eagles by the score of 56-29, and the Cedarville girls, they improve to 6-3 as they defeat Cedarville on Monday night by the score of 58-39. Well, the rankings came out on Tuesday for boys and girls basketball. First of all, the Brimley Bays boys remain the number 1 team in the Upper Peninsula in the latest UP poll from some of the sports writers and broadcasters in boys basketball. However, Brimley moved up to number 1, the number 1 team in the state in the latest Associated Press poll. They leapfrog Pellston, who was number 1 last week. They didn't lose last week, Pellston, but they dropped to number 2. Brimley now the number 1 team, and if both Pellston and Brimley advance in the playoffs, they would meet in the regional semis in St. Ignace. Now, that's still a long ways away, but we saw Tuesday night some scouts from Pellston looking at that Brimley game. Very possible that you could have the 2 top teams in the state meet in the regional semis, and we'll have that game on the Eagle. Speaking of, well, we've got to mention one other thing. St. Ignace, they're the number 1 team in the UP for girls and the number 6 team in the latest AP poll in the state of Michigan. In the game you heard on Eagle 95.1 Tuesday night, I was out in Brimley. Big game between the Brimley Bays and Cedarville Trojans, and it was the Bays defeating Cedarville by the score of 90-74 to improve to 12-0 on the season. And I always say on my broadcast, if you have 5 players that score in double digits, you're going to win those games. The Bays had just that. Zach Gross once again leading the way for Brimley, 21 points. Tristan Lyons and Marcus Harris added 19 each. Hunter Lippinen 14. Dylan Carrick 10 for the Bays, who improved to 12-0. Tristan Masuga, he had 22 points for the Trojans. And I cannot say enough about this Brimley team and how they play. They do need some improvements. And their coach will tell you in this area they need to improve their defense a bit. Maybe they're being too unselfish. And again, that's a great problem for a coach to have. 12-0 on the season, you're saying, well, my team sometimes needs to be better prepared as far as selfish-wise. They need to be more selfish. Well, I don't think you're going to get that from this squad. They are a very unselfish team. They have so many ways they can beat you. And they are on their way to an undefeated regular season. It's happened a couple times here in recent memory for the Brimley Bays, so they're not any strangers to having undefeated teams. But boy, the look of this team, they could advance in the playoffs and will be there every step of the way on the Eagle. Engadine and Newberry played Tuesday night in boys basketball. Andrew Blanchard with 31 points, 11 rebounds, 7 steals, and 6 assists for the Engadine squad as they defeat Newberry by the score of 82-67 to improve to 7-3 on the season. Newberry falls to 2-7. Sioux High Blue Devils boys team on Tuesday night, they fall to Gaylord by the score of 47-22 to fall to 3-6. And the Pickford Panthers even up their record at 4 as they defeat Rudyard in Rudyard by the score of 77-70. Girls basketball Tuesday night, Brimley gets a forfeit victory over Alanson by no score. It was a forfeit to improve to 8-2 on the season. And Rudyard and Pickford played in girls basketball on Wednesday. It was Pickford with an 83-58 win over the Rudyard Bulldogs. Well, that's going to do it for our local sports roundup here on the Eagle. Lots of games tonight in boys basketball. Brimley is at Harbor Light Christian, Pickford at Engadine, Detour at Rudyard, Newberry at Cedarville, and St. Ignace at Sheboygan. Girls basketball tomorrow night, Maplewood Baptist at Brimley, Marquette at the Sioux, Detour at Rudyard, Sheboygan at St. Ignace, Cedarville at Newberry, and Engadine at Pickford. The Laker men and women, as I mentioned, in basketball hosting Wisconsin Parkside tonight. They'll be at home Saturday afternoon to take on Purdue Northwest. The Sioux Eagles on the road Friday night at Elliott Lake. They'll be home to Powassan on Saturday. Sioux Indians also at home on Saturday at the Puller after that Eagles game. Sioux Thunderbirds at home tonight against Espanola. Tomorrow night against Powassan. Laker hockey on the road this weekend at Minnesota State. Sioux High hockey on the road at Alpena. Sioux Greyhounds on the road tonight, Saturday, and Sunday. So a lot of our teams on the road, and we'll recap it all Monday night as we will be back at the Wicked Sister. Looking forward to that broadcast. It seems like it's been a month. It has been a month as our broadcast schedule a little clunky over the holidays due to schedules and everything. But hey, keep it here on the game. We'll get you update with everything that's going on in the world of sports. Coming up, we'll get our good friend Butch Davis from Butch on Sports, which you can hear on thegamesportshow.com. He's going to chime in to tell us about the Metro Detroit sports scene. We're going to cover the Detroit Pistons. Well, they've had a couple wins lately, but it's been pretty much the skids before this week. We're also going to talk about the Detroit Red Wings, a team getting a victory this week against Anaheim, but I'm going to pose the question to Butch. I'm actually going to ask him 2 questions. I'm going to ask him, is Jeff Blashill going to make it through the season? Will he be back next year? I'm going to put out Butch on the spot with that one, as well as, is this as bad as it has been in the world of Detroit sports? Our good friend and listener Don Supa wanted me to pose that to Butch. As far as, well, we haven't seen any playoff victories for over 3 years, and really you got to go back to the late 70s, early 80s to see the 4 major professional teams in Detroit struggle and where they're at. Every team's struggling right now. Every team below 500. The Tigers, the Lions aren't playing, but, well, things aren't real good there. We're going to talk to Butch about that and more coming up on The Game here on Eagle 95.1.
Get wicked at the Wicked Sister. You'll find the best tasting food for the whole family. Start off with some appetizers like the crab dip, served with warm naan bread strips and soft pretzel bites, or their antibiotic and hormone-free boneless chicken wings with 5 choices of sauces. Entrees include the barbecue pulled pork sandwich, the #1 selling drunken cow burger, or Philly cheesesteaks, and they're on special all day Thursdays. The Wicked Sister also offers a gluten-free menu and catering. Bring the whole family. The Wicked Sister, downtown Ashman Street, open 7 days a week.
The Game Sports Show would like to thank a list of additional sponsors. North Shore Sports and Auto, new location located on 647 McDonald Avenue, Sault Ste. Marie. A family-owned and operated business with doing business in Sault Ste. Marie for over 10 years. Loads of products available for your enjoyment for all seasons. North Shore Sports and Auto, we understand the importance of quality service and products, and we work hard to ensure that all customers have a positive experience before and after each and every sale. North Shore Sports and Auto, meeting all of your new and pre-owned equipment needs. Special thanks to Salon. The Salon, located on 589 2nd Line East, Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Owned and operated by Mike Cuglietta. Book your appointment today at 705-941-9191 or via online at https://thesalonsioux.as.me-. The Salon, making the Sioux beautiful, one haircut at a time. As well as a shout out to the Superior Pro Shop. The Superior Pro Shop, located inside the Community First Credit Union Superior Arena on 285 Northern Avenue East, Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Owned and operated by Jeremy Paquin and ran by Larry Monroe. Superior Pro Shop, for over 40 years, meet all of your skate sharpening, skate repair, and hockey needs. Also to Discover the Canvas. Discover the Canvas, located on 317 Wellington Street West, Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. A beautiful new renovated building owned and operated by expert artist and Sioux native Katrina Thibodeau. Katrina taking her talents of the ink in Sault Ste. Marie and truly creating the best and most realistic art locally. Call Katrina today at 705-450-8099 or email her at discoverthecanvas@gmail.com to book your tattoo or consultation today.
Scott Nason back on The Game on this Thursday night. Well, unfortunately, we were not able to connect with Butch Davis. Butch has a busy schedule. We have a busy schedule. And so, unfortunately, we're not going to have Butch to give his insight and analysis on what's going on in the Metro Detroit sports scene. But don't worry. We're going to get Butch back. Maybe we'll have a special edition this weekend, but we'll have him on for sure Monday night at the Wicked Sisters. We will have our first broadcast of 2019 live at the Wicked Sisters, 6 to 7 on the radio on Eagle 95.1 and online at EagleRadio951.com. Then we'll have the full 2-hour show on the podcast page, thegamesportshow.podbean.com or thegamesportshow.com. So we're going to cut this version a little bit short, but I want to thank each and every one of you for listening tonight. Don't forget you can catch lots of sports content all week and all year long on our website, thegamesportshow.com. You can find our special editions from Sioux, Ontario, our U.S. edition from the Wicked Sister on Ashman Street, downtown Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, as well as podcasts of Brimley Bay's basketball. We have that exciting Tuesday night game on the website. We also have podcasts of Sioux Eagles hockey and my segments with Paul Van Wagner on ESPN Blacksburg, along with Butch Davis and his show, Butch on Sports. That's going to do it from the studios of Eagle 95.1. We will talk to you Monday night for another edition of The Game here on Eagle 95.1.